Good morning. Welcome to Companion Permaculture. This is the backyard garden. Early spring. It's May, well, not early. It's May 18th, and the nights are getting predictably in the 50s. So I think our last frost has happened, but I'm still not going to be putting delicate stuff out for another week, just to be safe. I just thought that I'd give a little walk around this morning since we have a lot of things going on back here, and soon everything will become overgrown and progress won't be so obvious until it's fall again. So I'm gonna turn the camera around and do a little walkabout and explain what I've been working on. So as you come into our backyard, you have to go down a flight of steps to get to it. And to the right of me is our deck. This is where we keep all the junk, and nettles have decided to grow, which is really a problem because they arch over here. All right, so heading down into the garden, to the left there's a line of really tall cedar trees. They were planted super close together, and so you can probably see along here there's a bunch of stumps, right? That right there's a couple down there, and so we cut out the ones that were dying. We did some last year and some this year. This year really seems to have changed how the space out back here feels a lot. This area in here was our chicken coop, and there was chain link fence, a run. When we moved in, it had been a dog run. It's a really unhealthy place for the chickens. It's a really damp place because the drainage from the street comes out right there, and it's just really damp. We need to work on that. And also this space under here, the old owners threw a lot of garbage, so we're trying to contain that. Luckily it's in the corner and not in our space. So here you can see we're getting ready to do some biochar. We've got all the dead branches from the cedars, and my husband is still taking down some branches as he can reach them. Got the old wooden ladder there. So that's just to the left of the stairs. This dark area, that's a creek. It runs all along that side. That's the property line. Over here, the yard is a neighbor. So these three big stumps were humongous cedar trees we took down last spring because this whole backyard was abysmally dark and damp and just not very fun to hang out in. There wasn't a lot of life because those trees really blocked everything. So here we've got, that's the deck looking up at the humongous house, and we've got these two gigantic Norway spruce. Sorry, my panning abilities are not good, but there's one of these guys on each side, and they're probably as old as the house, 160, 150 years old. This is just some ground cover. I'm hoping when the chickens that we got this spring are big enough, they'll come out and kind of shred this up. It just doesn't serve much purpose other than not being grass, which is a good thing. So I've been observing over the last couple years this space here, and I put some flags out. You can see I'm going to do a tight grouping of 4 dwarf apple trees, maybe add a pear and 3 apples, because I notice that there are lots of little saplings that come up in this spot naturally. Every year I get saplings in here, and I also get the forget-me-nots, which are a good indication of sunshine. They tend to really like the sun. There's more of them over here. And those were not there last year because we did not have light in this area. This whole area was basically just dead. and I've put in a lot of clover and different ground cover things that I want to be able to chop up and feed the bunnies with. So these stumps are becoming part of the little fenced area that I'm going to make around my annual garden, because the chickens are hard on things, right? So that seems to be the best way, is to just have a little area that's gated off from them. These are cedar logs that were from the trees along the tree line. They are maybe gonna be a cordwood sauna or something like that someday. We'll see. But they'll last until we decide. So this is a nice shady spot down here. We're gonna use this area for, like, we're gonna have some outdoor furniture, fire, things like that. Something, maybe some swings from the trees, these really nice old Norway maples. And then there's the creek access there. Now, you can't really see too well from here, so let's get right up on top of it. Cedar is really bushy up top, and so we took all the greens, springy branches, and we built this hedge down along the creek bank all the way down. And partly it's just a great way to, store all that wood, but at the same time it creates a really nice break for the deer. They can walk along behind it here along the creek if they want to, but they haven't been coming into the garden area, so that's good. The creek is just beautiful. I love this time of year because there's still a lot of light down in here. We've piled some cedar logs along in hopes that we can, over time, not stop the water, but have this area be more deep and still. And so maybe we can have some ducks, or I don't know. It's just a good place to get a bucket full of water when you need it. Right now it's kind of awkward to get water out of the stream. And I don't do that a whole lot anyway. It's probably got some runoff from fields uphill. And then, every year it's different. This year it looks like there's life in the creek. Some years it's definitely very dead. So we've got, in addition to using the brushy branches for the hedge, we've built these hugel mounds. Really, really not the way that you're supposed to. I mean, we've just thrown brush in a pile and then put bedding from the rabbitry on top of it. So not careful construction at all. And we've pretty much stopped adding to them this year. Hopefully we can plant in some, there's a lot of bedding in here, we can plant in vines and stuff that won't mind all those open spaces, hopefully. So these go all the way down. They're about 40 feet long each, so that's, and about 4 or 5 feet wide. A little bit too wide to access easily from each side, so I think I'm going to use I'm going to start planting perennials down the middle. I've seen that on Edible Acres channel, and that makes a lot of sense. So I'll plant, some, like maybe asparagus down the middle, and still have room on the side for annual tomatoes and whatnot. This area here is new this year. It was like, like this, cardboard, some cedar logs for edging, and then my husband dragged a ton of rabbit bedding back here. tried to get it done while it was still slippery and snowy, but it didn't quite work out that way. So it was a tough slog, part of it. But yeah, it's about 2 to 4 inches of rabbit bedding, really dense. You know, it's like half straw and half manure on top. So very, very rich. Hopefully it's enough depth to be a good mulch too. Right here with these little pink flags, you can see I just put in a couple rows of potatoes yesterday. We've not grown potatoes here, so I don't know if there's going to be enough sun. Also planning on doing corn in the center section, which does get quite a bit of sun from like here down to here. It definitely has 6 to 8 hours of sun almost all summer, so we'll see. My neighbor there, that's their furniture, and they have a pool there. That's their apple tree, and they have these gorgeous ancient lilacs. I love them. They're kind of scraggly, but they're beautiful. Along the fence line, I've started putting in some perennials, vines and miscanthus grass. There's a bed of, what is that, valerian, and then stinking nettle, which I regret deeply putting in that spot, but I can't seem to get it eradicated, so that's where it lives. This bed hasn't been cleared out yet because I like the flowers, so I just leave the weeds until I'm ready to put new stuff in. So when it's warm enough for tomatoes, I'll be pulling all this stuff out and popping tomatoes in. But I've got some, last year, the deer ate all my tomatoes. So this bed, I just did a ground cover, and I see some of the brassicas coming back up, and hopefully I can catch some of those seeds. So this will be tomatoes. Also, that gets enough sun for tomatoes. As long as I don't crowd them, it should be okay. This is becoming one of my favorite areas back here. We've got another huge Norway spruce. I call this Mama Spruce. She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. And down, this is the stream bank line that way. The stream kind of makes an S across the property here. There's a little bridge. So our property goes all the way to the street over there. There's another street. So it's an L-shaped property, which is just, it's really wonderful. It seems bigger than it is because it's kind of stretched out. So back in here, it's just like this gorgeous meadow. I'm loving it. It's this time of day, early morning. It's just beautiful. All the pink flags, they're really ugly, but not everybody in my family recognizes all the plants and what's a weed and what's not. So I flag things that I've planted. And this area naturally had some wild berries growing, so I've just been kind of collecting from other places, and this is going to be a patch, raspberry patch. Speaking of raspberries, I've got from Edible Acres, I got peach cap raspberries. I'm really excited. They're doing really well, and there's a Nanking cherry in there as well. So these mounds are, believe it or not, they have been piles of brush for 6 years, and we just put bedding on this year, and hopefully I can get something growing on those before the weeds take over. I see a lot of the hay, the grass is starting to sprout there. I've got this structure over a plum tree because Joe's got a couple dead branches that he's going to take off before these smaller trees start growing. So let's see, this is the view back down. So the beds, this direction. This one Y's off. It becomes one here. And this is the other end of the hedge. I've got a few things planted along there. I've got a chestnut, I've got some senna, hasn't come up yet, but everything else I've bought has been doing good, so I think it's just a matter of time. I, I work on guilds in my head, and it seems to be a lot easier to buy trees and get them established than bushes. For some reason, I'm having a lot of trouble with bushes. Um, I don't. I think I'm trying to go too cheap on it. Basically, I think I need to just get a rooted something that's got roots instead of trying to do my own rooted cuttings. I just don't think I don't have those skills yet. So this hedge here, yeah, you see it all goes all the way down. It's probably 100 feet, right? And there's like a little gap right here for creek access. And I'm hoping the deer just don't come through it, but deer will get wherever that you don't want them. The hedge also served another purpose. Previous owner, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, planted privet along here. And I've been fighting with that stuff, and you can see it here. All these bushes grow great, privet, right? So they're just everywhere, and it's been so hard to eradicate, but it seems like putting that brush on top, that got rid of the worst of it. So that served a good purpose. We've got swing here. The canopy is going to be this, I don't know if you can see this. I got Chisandra vine, and it's doing good too. Another from Edible Acres. I highly recommend his stuff, their stuff. They have a really great system for raising things. The bridge is dying. Maybe this will be the year that it dies and we have to fix it. But we had a big flood early this year, and it just went up over it and moved it quite a bit. It's not happy. So this area over here, I'm not going to go across the bridge in case I fall in. But this area here, you see there's neighbor's house. There's more spruce trees here. That's the road. That's my wood chip pile. And that I'm thinking of that as like our zone 4, right? We just go over there once in a while. I plant a couple things, a few trees, prickly things to keep the deer from coming this way. They like to come in right over the culvert there. The stream goes under the road, and the deer come right across there and then right down into the garden. So trying to dissuade them. This is another property line. These trees, we're putting in some fence there. It was going to be just lightweight mesh, but we have a new neighbor, and they have some very well trained dogs, but they're large, and I just would rather they didn't come after my chickens and have a scene. Even the best trained dog can't resist a running chicken. So this is the morning view. I'm really happy with the progress we're making. We did a lot last spring, made a lot of progress, and then my health took a turn, and I really didn't get anything planted, and I hardly even came back here. I was unable to get down the steps. So I think we need to make a plan for the future for that, so that I can still access this when I'm having it's Lyme. I've had Lyme for 20 years, and so every spring, sometimes it lasts all summer, I have a really bad flare of symptoms. So we just have to plan for that. I can be in remission for 11 months of the year, and then the 12th month when things need to go in the ground, I feel like crap. But yeah, there's not, it'd be nice maybe if there was more sun, it could grow some more annuals. But the more I look into permaculture and research and learn and do, the more I'm kind of realizing that perennials could pretty much take over most of this space. And then maybe I could just support local farmers who have sunshine, right, to get my tomatoes and corn. Because we eat a lot of tomatoes, and since our family, we have to be gluten-free, corn becomes a really useful grain to have on hand. So this is looking back. in the front yard last year, we've had this dead, massive Norway spruce, and we had to have it taken down last year. It was getting dangerous. And so my son split all those big, huge logs 2 feet around. He split them all, and so I'm using them to build a pretty fence. You know, it's not going to be mortared together or anything, but you know, it's a way of, in a pretty way, saving some firewood for an emergency. All right, one view back. So this back area is about 1/2 acre. Just to put it in perspective, it's about 1/2 acre, and I'd say half of that, 1/4 of it, is garden, like active garden. These open areas, which are not garden, are all going to be orchard. This area gets enough sun now that I can put in a few trees. We'll see how close they like to be together. I'll overplant and then cut things out if I need to. Yeah, mid-May, zone 5A, we're doing good.